Yeah, the idea was to promote, or I don't know what the right word is, to get Detroit artists out there, since Detroit's not on anybody's art map.
Mm-hmm.
So the idea was to go to the source, go to the mountain, in other words, instead of the mountain coming to you.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody's going to take Detroit art seriously until they see it. So we approached Berlin. Well, we approached Chicago first and did a show with them.
Mm-hmm.
And we approached Berlin and did a swap. And then we did Austria. And this current show is the tail end of the Chinese swap.
Okay.
These are all Chinese,
Okay.
Which shows you, there's a lot of empathy between what's happening in China and Detroit. There's a compression. You think of China as this booming industrial country, but at the same time, there's a lot of bust happening on too, because it's like everything's happening so quickly that it's being compressed. So this town that these photographs of these empty factories were taken, within a range of 7 years, the population of the city tripled. As these factories were put up and people started working in them, and by the end of that 7 years, the businesses had been outsourced or the factories closed for some reason.
Mm-hmm.
And so they were left. So within a 7-year range, you've got this population of about 2 million going up to 6.7 million, and then everything just leaving. And so it's like an accelerated version of Detroit.
Yeah.
So I think that's one reason why they included it too. But in some of the other images that are more staged tableaus, you can see that they're playing off the notion of old China, new China, and sense of destruction too, with the worker destroying. And that's happening a lot. They're tearing a lot of homes down and things because they want to build factories. And neighborhoods are being ruined, but that's happened in Detroit too. I didn't go to Berlin, but all the artists did.
Mm-hmm.
I think there were 10 or 11, and they all were flown over. They got money from Daimler to fly over to Berlin. And they brought back pictures or emailed them back, and there were posters made for the show, and the show was called Made in Detroit. And it was just great to see everywhere in Berlin these posters were plastered on walls and kiosks. It also stimulated, the Berlin show especially stimulated the press there to explore more about Detroit. So a camera crew came over here for a big show, kind of like their own version of 60 Minutes. And I was always surprised that the acceptance, the kind of open-armed policy that these galleries had to Detroit art.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're really curious about what's happening here. And the arts, they know about the music and they love it.
Yeah.
And they wonder about the visual arts. So, and Detroit's not some place to shy away from or hide from, for these galleries and these artists. So they want to show Detroit.
Yeah.
Which is always a surprise to Detroiters, because the sense of low esteem we have here.
Mm-hmm.
And the future show, so we've done enough overseas, I think, that we might, the idea was always to go to take Detroit artists around, get a good foothold and platform for the artists outside of the country. Give them a reputation and build up their resume so that they could come into New York and say, we've shown from Berlin to China, and so we established ourselves as global artists. So take a look at what we've got. So we'll probably do New York next. No reason why we have 6 galleries here. There's no reason why we can't have 6 separate swaps at one time, with 6 separate cities and 6 separate groups of Detroit artists too. Not always the same group of artists. So that's important too. We haven't had any problems at all. Every gallery I've approached said, sure, let's do it. Let's do it now. There's no reason why we can't do it. There's support systems here. And that comes from the artists.